Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Thursday. Welcome to the show. This is Back to the Window with Scott and Scott. I'm half the Scott. I'm Scott Steehn, lead handicapper at winnersandwhiners.com.
And I'm your co-host, Scott Reichel, senior handicapper over winnersandwhiners.com.
And together we do this each and every day, 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central, doing our best to help everybody out there in their journey as we all attempt to head back to the window. Now, Scott, how did your Wednesday go? Did you see that 39-point Memphis victory on your radar screen? Did you have that one?
In fact, it wasn't even on my radar screen because I didn't watch it. I was watching hockey playoffs the entire night. But overall, my day was okay. I can't say it was that great. I live bet the Dodgers while we were on the show, which did not go well because they squandered a bunch of runners on base. They gave up the lead. They gave up the tie, actually, and ended up losing to the Pirates. That wasn't fun. But I won my play of the day. Had the over again with the Rangers and Penguins. I still can't believe it's at 6 every game. I don't get it, but thank you for giving me solid value every time.
Right.
And besides that, I had a saves prop in the Stars and Flames game, and that literally went up in flames.
Oh, nice. Very good. That's bad for your bet, but good for your
Well, I
your
needed
puns.
2 saves in about the final 5.5 minutes, 6 minutes. And, of course, Calgary scores. So I have an overtime draw at 1-1. And then they score, and you know they're going to pull the goalie in like 3 minutes. And, yeah, they finished about two saves short, I think.
Ugh, not good. Not good, Bob. Well, I had my play of the day was Arizona against Miami, and after going down early, Arizona Diamondbacks fought, scrapped, finally tied it in the bottom of the 8th at 3 runs apiece. And they had Charlie Smith out there who'd been pitching really well. He'd gone 3 straight innings, hadn't given up a hit, hadn't given up a run, 6 strikeouts in those 3 innings. And, of course, they pull him because, you know, you got a closer. You got Melanson out there. You paid him a lot of money, so let's bring him in. And let's watch him give up 4 runs, and then we'll bring in Wendelken and watch him give up 4 runs. So congratulations. A game that was tied after 8 was now 11-3, and my play was down in flames. Did do a little better on the premium side, went 2-1 with a over on the San Francisco-Colorado game, had the Athletics, and had the Milwaukee-Boston under 214, which, of course, was deluged by the fourth quarter 3-point shooting by the Milwaukee Bucks, and that one went down in flames as well. So, and we know what happened with the farms. With the farm, McGill
They're up 3-0 before McGill was pitching.
Yeah,
so
it was
a perfect start to the game.
Yep, it was great news. If you had a Yurfie, you were in great shape. But if you had McGill, pitched like Jimmy McGill from Better Call Saul, and not good as the Mets went down to a disastrous. So,
well, you know it's bad when you're up 3-0 and then you are still trailing by 2 runs at the end of the first inning. Not exactly ideal.
No, not exactly. Magellan says, sure, he's got, tell me the name, Scott.
Shapovalov.
There you go. Exactly. Live. Dahl is going down.
Nadal is still battling some physical ailments. I know he was battling the rib issues. It seems like he's basically punting the second set. He won the first set 6-1. Now he's in danger of potentially going down 4-0. We saw him have a pretty similar script against Shapovalov, actually, in the Australian Open. And then he took a mysterious injury timeout for about 10-15 minutes. And what do you know, Nadal won the set and eventually won the entire Australian Open. So I expect Nadal to take another mysterious injury timeout for 5-10 minutes, and then he'll probably bounce back and win the third.
Have a little have a little spinach, come back, he'll be good.
Little spinach, maybe a concoction or 2 in the water bottle. We'll see. I don't know.
Ninth Wonder says, "May the force be with you, and also with you, sir." And a couple of my dog had a little barking going on. He's usually pretty good during the show. I've got him trained where he usually just sleeps, but my neighbor is moving out, so there's just a lot of commotion going on. So apologies. Yeah. Michael Dose says we're going to talk about the Heat and the 76ers. I guarantee you we'll talk about that. We do want to remind everybody, of course, to smash that like button. We'd appreciate it. You know the drill. We don't ask for much around here, but we do ask that you do just take a minute and hit that thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to both our channels, please do that as well. Check out the Max Wagers Network YouTube channel. Of course, the Winners and Winers YouTube channel as well. And we check out the great lineup here at Max Wagers Network at noon. It's Midday Money with Sean Higgs. 1 o'clock brings Allie Burns doing Morning Wood. 2 o'clock is me and Chris. 3 o'clock is me and Scott. 4 o'clock is me and Sean Miller. No, it's not right. It's just Sean Miller doing his soccer show. And 5 p.m., of course, it's Detroit Lenny, Nick, and Tim Earl. We'll give you all those game time decision. I set myself up poorly for that. And, of course, what do we got going on at Caesar, Scott?
So we have a nice promo for you, the same promo that we've had for a couple of weeks. They give you insurance on your first bet there, up to $1,100. If you place a first-time wager of up to $1,100, you get it back in the form of a free bet if it loses. So, of course, it's always nice to take a gamble and to know that even if it doesn't work out, you didn't lose all the money. You can actually still get a second chance to potentially get it back or even get yourself a profit. But the promo code is ATSWINSCZR. I believe that's in the description as well.
Yep, absolutely true. Make sure you check that out. Ninja says he had Klay Thompson under 20.5. Thank God he didn't do anything in the third quarter, and they rest all the starters in the fourth. Klay got 19 into the third. No need to call the cops because he wins. Very good. Yep. If you look at, we were talking about this with Chris, if you look at who played the minutes on that show, man, the Memphis Grizzlies absolutely cleared their bench. I don't think anybody.
They should have.
I don't think
they were 55.
I don't think anybody played less than 12 minutes, and I mean nobody.
Yeah. And what? By the way, plus 5,000. Me to show up at your show.
Oh, were you in the comment section?
I was the one who made the comment about the Boston power play.
Oh, okay. That's right.
You didn't even notice. I said plus 5,000 cashes them in the show.
I'm gonna tell you a little inside baseball secret about the show with Chris. When Chris starts doing his stuff, where he has his spreadsheets or where he has his PowerPoint slides, I maximize the screen.
Okay.
Which takes away the comments, as you know.
So I did show up.
Okay. Today. He did say, and he did mention something like Scott said. I assumed you had said that earlier, and he remembered an earlier statement. I didn't realize you were saying that live. So yes, if you had the over a half of shows that Scott attended besides his own today, you are a winner. Congratulations.
Plus 5,000.
I believe that's what it was.
Pretty good.
And you can't, you busted the trend right there. Absolutely true. So what else we got going on? Oh, if you want to get my premium picks, we've been running pretty good here this week. We are 10-2 over our last dozen. So if you want to jump on the premium train, I do have the link in the description there as well. You can check that out. So with that being said, let's find out a little bit about what happened yesterday. I have a hunch on which one you might see on the rocking chair. I'm just saying. I think it's possible somebody may know what's coming here as far as the rocking chair. But there were some cops out there. There were some cops last night, and there were some things that didn't go as well as you might have certainly hoped. So let's check out who it is. Let's find out the Thursday edition of who had to get out their cell phone and call the cops. Look, I am not looking for technical trouble today, sound effects board. Just stop it. Just stop that shit right now. So, heading to hockey, if you had the Stars plus 1.5 against the Flamas, they led 1-0 after 2. Here comes Calgary, Scott. Not 1, not 2, but 3 unanswered goals in the third period. Dallas, you should have called somebody, because if you bet on them, now you got to call the cops.
And looking at baseball under, if you had the Royals and the Rangers under 8.5, you only had 5 runs going into the 9th inning. Can I interest you in 5 runs in the 9th inning? And the game landed 10.
You can't stop the Royals, Scott. You can only hope to contain them.
Yeah, what did they score? 8 runs? What is that, a season high?
Yeah, I believe it certainly is. I think they had one monster game just out of nowhere early in the season.
Good for them.
Right? And finally, going back to the ice, if you had the Capitals plus 1.5, they were up against the Panthers. They led 3-0 after 2.
Well, in the middle of the second period.
The middle of the second period. Yeah, not at the end. Sorry. Yeah, they did start it before the end of the second period. You're right. But the Panthers, they said, you know what? We need to wake up here. And they scored the next 5 unanswered goals in a little over a period. That ain't good. And if you had the Caps plus 1.5, you were close. You thought you had a sure victory, but put that champagne back on ice because it's time to call the cops.
Yeah, it was a pretty bad night to back any underdogs in hockey yesterday because the Rangers came back and won, the Panthers came back and won, and covered the puck line. And you also had the Flames came back and won and covered the puck lines. If you had the favorites and the puck line, you won every single bet.
Books got to be taking a pounding. The day before it was all overs. The next day it's all favorites.
I'm assuming, though, that even though the Rangers were favored at home, a decent amount of money came on Pittsburgh just because of the fact they scored 7 goals in each of the last 2 games.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the books got killed in that side. The total, I can guarantee you, the books got absolutely hammered on that 6 or 6.5 because nobody was betting the under.
Yeah, that's probably true. All right, very good. Well, there was some good news out there. There were some games that maybe got a little bit out of hand, and maybe you were on the right side of them. Let's find out what those games were as we reveal the Thursday edition of the Rockin' Chair.
So the first one was actually my play of the day. If you had the over 6 goals in that Penguins-Rangers game, you had 6 goals in the first 2 periods. And for the cherry on top, it was tied 3-3. So you automatically won going into the third period, and the game landed 8.
Very good. If you had the Brewers and the Reds over 9.5, you didn't have to watch much of this one. Just the first 3 innings, that'll do, Pig, as they put up 10 runs in the first 3 innings. The game landed 25 as the Brewers miss a field goal as time runs out and end up losing 14-11. Congratulations on your over Rockin' Chair.
And the last one, if you had the A's on the money line against the Tigers, they led 6-0 after 3 innings, and they won 9-0.
The over in that game. You talk about teams you have to do most of the heavy lifting. There's a team that had to do all the heavy lifting, and they still got there. So you like how I threw the audience a curveball, Scott, thinking they were going to hear the one particular game there on the rocking chair because it was so obvious, and then they didn't hear it.
Except it's so obvious that we have other segments.
Yeah, it's its own segment, and it has to be. You could have put this in a lot of different spots. You could have put it in the donkey. You could have put it in the drunks. But because we haven't done one of these in a while, we decided to talk about who yesterday, Scott. Well, they didn't really necessarily make us angry, but we were just so very disappointed in them. Well, we touched on it briefly, and it certainly deserves to be talked about a lot more as the Golden State Warriors found themselves down 55 towards the end of the third quarter. Scott, they end up winning by 39 as Memphis literally puts in the ball boy, the stat
Coach's son somewhere.
The stat guy,
yeah.
Buddy Boeheim, I think, went in. What happened, bud? Pat Knight.
So what happened was that Memphis was scoring roughly 55 more points than Golden State, and Golden State could not come back in enough time. So
they don't call him the best color man in the business for nothing, everybody.
At the end of the day, it seemed like a spot where Golden State stole one at home. I think we can say that. They got outplayed in Game 4, and they still found a way to win. So they were up 3-1, and Curry made the comments in the pregame basically saying we're going to try to, kick their asses, basically, with a rap lyric thrown in there. But the point is that it seemed like Golden State took the game for granted, and they just thought that Memphis would roll over after losing Game 4. And Memphis came back home, said, you didn't hear, we're better without Ja Morant, and they ended up killing them. But I just think it seemed like Golden State was disinterested. We know Golden State's been an awful first quarter team for a while now, and Memphis has been very good in the first quarter. It seemed like Golden State went down early, and they really just rolled over. And Memphis said, we're taking this game. We're going back to Golden State.
Yep,
so
absolutely true. Dano Sears, apologies for whichever way I fucked that up, got killed yesterday, fellas. Had the Diamondbacks on the money line. That was me. Had the Mets. That was us. Had the Dodgers run line.
I live bet the money line, but I lost on that too.
Yeah, you did. And had the Celtics under. Ugh.
Yeah.
That's not a good day. Michael Dose says the Pirates season was made this week, winning 2-3 against the Dodgers at home. Dodgers looking for offense at the trade deadline.
They're going to trade for everything at the deadline. They're the Dodgers.
Is there anybody they don't have on that squad already? Ninja head to Memphis on the money line. There's a nice, easy rocking chair for you, buddy. Renzo Brothers, what up, Renzo? O's winning 3 series in a row. Well, I know one of them came against the Royals, so
that doesn't even count,
I guess next game we say Golden State wins by 80. So let me ask you this, because I know this will be kind of a popular talking point before this game starts. Does it make a difference if you lose by 5 or if you lose by 40?
I think it matters.
Mentally, where would you rather be?
Yeah, I think that it matters in very, very specific circumstances. Namely, if your team's basically dead and you need a little bit of a pulse. Because you can make an argument if Memphis barely squeaked it out and they won by 2. They're going back to Golden State, but I'm sure back of their mind they might be thinking, all right, we got lucky to get out of it at home. We're probably going to get buried. I'm assuming that's where the logic would be if they barely pulled out a win there. If you're up by 55 and you win by 39 and you're missing your best player in Ja and people thought they were going to roll over, I do think that the margin matters because for a confidence boost, Memphis might now have an actual belief they can pull this off. Do I think they're going to pull it off? I'm assuming Golden State will win Game 6. There's no chance in hell I'm laying 8.5 with Golden State. That is an offensive line, and Memphis plus 8.5, or even the money line at plus 320, is the only way I could look at that game. But we said it on yesterday's show when somebody asked. I don't think Golden State is very good. I think they are a good basketball team with several good individual players. But you look at the overall team, and when Curry is not really making many shots, I know Clay was actually good last night, so I can't really criticize him. But when you're relying so much on three-point shooting, and you're getting killed on the glass like they finally did yesterday, we thought Memphis should dominate the glass the entire series long. They turned the ball over a ton. That's been Golden State's issue for years. And I feel like unless one of their main guys shoots the lights out, they're in danger of losing to anybody because I really don't think that team is as dominant as the odds makers suggest. Because you can look at the current odds right now. Golden State is basically tied for the title favorites with Phoenix. And I don't think their odds should be higher than Milwaukee. No. I think if Milwaukee played Golden State with Middleton, Milwaukee would win in 6. I don't think Golden State would win that series. I don't think they would even beat Miami. But I think Golden State's a good team, not a great team, but they've benefited from the West being relatively weak this year.
Yeah, and you touched on it briefly. I'm just going to expand on that. They turned the ball over 22 times. Scott, an NBA team can't turn the ball over 22 times and expect to win. Not going to happen.
What do you think's considered acceptable? 14? Even that's pushing it.
I would say
12?
Low double digits. Yeah. 10
okay.
to 12. Memphis had 9 turnovers, and they out-rebounded them 55-37.
No, I'm not going to immediately overreact to the margin and say Golden State's screwed, it's over. Like, no, they're still at home. As long as Golden State defends home court, they'll win the series. But I am saying that Memphis, I don't think is going to be scared of the opportunity. And I think you can make a case that if Memphis was barely going to squeak by, they're playing with house money, but maybe they would have realized, all right, maybe it's not meant to be. But they win by 39, suddenly they might have a little bit of belief.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's I agree with you in both respects. I think that's very disrespectful to the Grizzlies, the fact that they're 8.5-point underdogs.
I think they got a good shot to win the game. I don't think they're going to. I think they'll fall a little bit short just because I assume Golden State will, I can't say be extra motivated, but after that ass kicking, they're definitely going to be focused for the entire 48 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't think there's going to be any lapse in focus over that time period after they got embarrassed on national TV.
You think we had a bad day? You think Dano had a bad day? Yesterday, you see the headline on the NBA on the ESPN on the website?
I don't even know if I want to know the headline. No, I didn't see it.
It was how the Warriors are recreating one of the best lineups of all time. And it went through and compared the Warriors of the
to what, the pool party lineup?
to the one, to today's.
I thought that lineup died. They're still using that? I mean, I haven't really noticed them using it that much in closing. I see Otto Porter on the court, like in some of the fourth quarter minutes and everything like that. They did have Gary Payton II in that closing lineup for the first couple games of the series.
Right.
I think the pool party lineup might be the most overrated lineup in recent memory because it was great for about 3 games against Denver, and then it's been mediocre ever since.
By the way, Dano said it's like Dano from Hawaii Five-0. So, very good. James MacArthur, fine actor, underrated.
And Michael's actually mentioning the Kings, and I feel like that's an appropriate segue. I know that he was talking to Steehn, but still, I thought that the Kings were moronic for signing, or for hiring, I should say, Mike Brown to be their next head coach. Now, shockingly, Sacramento had a questionable coaching hire because they're a terribly run organization. They have the longest playoff drought in the entire league. I'm assuming based on the 2 games without Steve Kerr and how Golden State has struggled, I know they won one of the games, but they were awful in it. He's going to be a disaster in Sacramento, right? Because I'm not sure he can coach.
Well, in fairness, everybody is.
No, I agree with that. But I hated the hire. I thought there was no creativity to it. You hire another old reject coach to try to revive Sacramento, kind of like what they did with George Karl. You might have forgotten he was the coach for a cup of coffee.
What's wrong with Cotton Fitzsimmons? They didn't bring Cotton Fitzsimmons back?
Didn't work out. But all I know is that Mike Brown, I don't think can coach, and I think his whole legacy is based on winning 60 games because he had LeBron on his team.
Okay.
But he's not a good coach, and the Warriors better pray that Steve Kerr is back on the sideline for Friday's game.
How do you really feel?
Well, what do you think Steve Kerr would be worth? Because I know we don't really talk that much about coaches and how much they're worth to a point spread, especially in basketball. Kerr's got to be worth like 2 points, right? Because Mike Brown has shown nothing in these 2 games.
Yes, I would think he would be worth 2 to 3 points over Mike Brown. I agree with that. This is Michael Doe says Sacramento is a disaster. Move them to Seattle or back to Kansas City. I'm all about it. You know, they AEG about 15 years ago said if you build it, they will come, and we built a beautiful downtown arena. And you know who comes? The Ice Capades. That's who comes. We get one NBA exhibition game a year, and we get one NHL exhibition game a year. And we were promised. I was told there'd be another sport, and it did not work out. So yes, I would love to see the Kings back. I'd love to see the Arizona Coyotes. That's a team that gets rumored to come to Kansas City about every other year. So yes, I would be all about it, Michael. I will. I used to have a great time at the Kings game. Saw a lot of great players. Got to see Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Magic, Bird, Jordan. You know, all the great teams there in the 80s before the Kings hiked it off to Sacramento.
All I know is I don't want the Kings in Seattle because Seattle deserves better.
Can you bet on the Ice Capades over under number of falls? It's usually somewhere around 3.5. I always play the over. Kansas City does not.
You'd be a sucker to play the under.
Kansas City does not seem to be a very popular destination. I think they work out a lot of new moves. I always play the over 3.5 falls at the Ice Capades.
Nice.
Okay. So let's move on to tonight's action and take a look real quick here, bud. We'll start off. Let's start off in the NHL. Islanders play tonight. Is that tomorrow night?
The Islanders?
Sorry, too soon.
Maybe in Cancun if they can find an ice rink.
Hey, talk about a home series. Carolina and Boston. Home team has won every game here.
And it hasn't been close.
And it hasn't been close. There hasn't been any games that have been less than 2 goals. And Carolina gives up 9 goals in 2 games on the road. They give up 4 games in the 4 goals in 3 games at home. Chris and I talked a little bit about this. Scott, do you have a theory for the disparity in goals given up between home and away?
For me, it just seems like Boston's more confident at home with regard to the power play. I know you mentioned the point of home teams tend to get more calls, which definitely is true as well. But I think special teams is a big piece of this because Boston, the issue they've had for several years, even when they made the Stanley Cup and lost to the Blues, they've been top heavy for years. And you look at their main line and you have a little bit of Taylor Hall sprinkled in on one of the secondary lines. That's it. So unless Bergeron, Marchand, and Pasternak are producing either at even strength or the power play, offensively they're screwed. And the main story in Carolina is that Carolina has done a very good job of keeping those 3 in check at home. On the road, not so much. So I do believe that Carolina's game plan, or really just the secret to stopping Boston, just stop the first line and try not to take penalties, and they should be pretty fine.
Now, I know you listened to part of the show. Do you agree with the fact that the people that say, well, they can afford to punt Game 6 because they're going back to Game 7, that narrative is bullshit when it comes down to the players and the coaches?
It's the dumbest narrative when it comes to hockey.
Okay.
It doesn't make any sense in hockey, and the second dumbest would be baseball because it all would come down to starting pitching anyway. So those two sports, I don't believe with regard to home court, home ice, home field, whatever you want to call it. But hockey especially. You have to try to win every single game that you have because home ice means absolutely nothing. I can tell you that much in my experience for Game 7s. It doesn't really matter. But what I will tell you is a bit of a hot take here. I'm actually taking Carolina. I think they end it.
Okay.
I just think they're the much better team. And I'm aware of the home road splits. I know Boston looks like a different team at home. I get it. But I really don't like what I've seen from the Bruins and their lack of depth. And I just mentioned that ad nauseum. I'll do it again. Carolina has several lines that can contribute. Boston has 1.5. And if Carolina can do enough on the penalty kill to either limit the amount of penalties that they get in general at even strength or at least limit the number of opportunities, I believe Boston just has, I'd say, a certain cap to their actual ceiling, and Carolina does not. So for me, I'm actually going to go against the current trend of the series. I'm going to take the Hurricanes. I think they end it. But my favorite play in this game would once again be the over 5.5, which you can find. I know currently it's at 6, but you can find alternative numbers. If you can get 5.5 at anything less than 135, you just take it. It's at 126 right now on FanDuel. I don't know how you avoid taking that because every game's had at least 6. It's an elimination game too, so if Boston goes down even 4 goals, they might pull the goalie.
Pull the goalie, yeah.
And we've seen them pull the goalie down 3. We've seen both coaches pull the goalie down 3. But 5.5 is my favorite play. Give me the over. But I actually do think Carolina bucks the trend and wins tonight.
So Dano brought up a point, and Chris brought it up in his show. And I want you to expand on it a little bit since you're the hockey guy. The home team gets the last line change. Can you explain how that works, Scott?
So the way that it works is that the way that I'll explain it is anytime you have a stoppage in action, so you have a face-off, a goal, whatever, puck out of play, the road team chooses which line they want to use, whether they want to use the first line, second line, whatever. And the defense can respond accordingly. So in other words, if there's a face-off in your offensive zone, then you can wait to see if the opposing team is going to use the first line, the second line, or the third line, and then match it accordingly. So you can't have your fourth line against the number 1 line on the other team. So it's a huge advantage for line changes in stopped action for the home team.
Okay, very good. And Ninja says after 5 to 7 minutes, there's no scoring. We'll be able to get a regular price on it at 5.5.
That's not a bad bet because we've seen these games in particular be high scoring, but it's a lot of late action.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a couple of low scoring early couple minutes, so I don't hate that either, Ninja. You can do the same thing with soccer especially.
Yep. MZ said the total is 6. Yes, I was talking about taking alternative line. Currently, it's at minus 127, where we can get 5.5. So you pay a little, pay a little extra juice there, but it should be well worth the squeeze. Is what's.
I don't mind 6, but when you're looking at situations where you're going to get most likely a couple of goalie pulls in a situation like this, I would rather get the half because I do believe that there's a decent chance this game will land 6.
And if it's 3-2, obviously, I would say even 4-1, they're pulling the goalie with 7.
Oh, they will.
7 minutes left.
So it happened last time we did the farm with that series. We took the 5.5 instead of 6, and what do you know? It landed 6.
Yep. That's some half points. I don't think either one of us are big proponents of quote unquote buying points, but there's some situations where you have lower scoring affairs where you your soccer or hockey, where that half point becomes a lot more valuable than what you're actually being charged for it. So Tampa Bay and Toronto. Scott, we have talked a little bit about how good Vasilevsky is.
Well, it's the entire team. They're 18-0? They're 18-0?
Yeah, he's 15-0 with five shutouts and like a .9 goals against. But the team is 18-0, I believe.
Yeah.
So this is both a good goalie and a good team after suffering a playoff loss like they did against Toronto. You want to get in the middle? You want to get in the front of that streak, Scott?
Hell no.
Okay.
The only thing that stopped me from taking it as a play today was that it was like minus 140, basically, minus 135.
Yeah.
So I decided not to. I don't mind regulation. I think if they're going to win, they're going to take it to them. But the way that I see it, I know that Chris did not want to talk about it because he is a Maple Leafs fan, unfortunately for him. But you're looking at the fact that Toronto has a pretty long history of choking, especially in the playoffs. And they've blown several 3-1 leads. They've blown several 3-2 leads in series. It's ugly. And we saw it last year when they blew the series to Montreal. We know what happened. So I'm telling you right now, if this gets to 7, I think Tampa's going to win Game 7. I would not mind taking a series price on Tampa because I do think they are incredibly live to win the series.
Okay, very good. Ninja says, what do you think about third period overs on all hockey games? Is it usually 2.5?
It's usually either heavily juiced 1.5 or some books will give you 2.5.
Okay. I see no reason not to take a play on that.
It's an elimination game for every game involved because, as you can tell, it's 3-2 one way or another. So you should end up seeing a lot of goalies being pulled late from either side.
Yep.
I'd prefer 1.5. Like I think in these spots, which might be a hot take, but once again, it goes back to the laying juice for totals. I would rather lay 200 on an over 1.5 than get a 2.5 at like minus 120.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think you're looking at 40% increase in value. Yeah.
That's how I'm looking at it. Now, some of you could disagree and say I would never lay 200 on that, but with the goal pulling alone, 1.5 definitely should cash at probably closer to a minus 300 clip. Wouldn't you think so?
Yeah, I would. And I'm going to say this. I know there's a lot of people out there that will preach, I don't pay over this amount of juice. I don't play, I will tell you, we have given you guys some high juice plays. We've given usually on awards, and it's been minus 400, minus 350. And the one thing.
We had Sheboy at minus
400.
380 or 400 or
yeah,
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Allie made incredible fun of us. And you know what? Every one of those bets, what do they have in common, Scott?
They won?
They've all cashed. That's right. So we will give you heavily juiced plays that still are plus EV. And I know that's hard to believe, but if you're minus 400 and the true odds are minus 800 or minus 1,000, then you're still getting over 100% EV to the positive side. It just doesn't seem that way.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. I mostly, keyword mostly, do that with awards. Awards are the ultimate way of laying juice for me.
Yes.
Or even the draft if you have trusted sources that tell you which direction the team's going in. But for awards, the sample size and the awards are already decided. They just have to vote. Going in, for example, halfway through the year, Tyler Hero's minus 800 to win Sixth Man of the Year. Well, he should be minus 50,000 because he's going to win the award. And Monty Williams, midway through the year, was minus 150 to win Coach of the Year. He should have been minus 700. Like, he was going to win the award. Phoenix was going to win 65 games, and he was going to coast to it. And you can make an argument that for any of these awards, the outcome is pretty much determined. Like, did you really need someone to tell you last year that minus 1,000 was an awful price going into week 18 on TJ Watt to win Defensive Player of the Year?
Right.
It should have been minus 50,000. He was going to win the award.
I would say with this caveat, I'm not sure I'd do anything halfway through the season and lay that kind of juice because you have injuries come in.
I'm just mentioning examples.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. But yeah, usually we're going to strike with about 1 to 2 months left, 4 to 8 weeks.
Yeah, and that's for awards. You even mentioned for draft stuff.
Right.
Walker, first pick in the draft. He went from around plus 105 to minus 500 in the span of a day. Do you think that all that money's a fugazi, or do you think that that's coming from something? I'm assuming that Sharp slammed Walker because they know who they're taking.
Somebody knew it. Yep, absolutely.
So
absolutely correct.
You can argue 500. You don't know. But based on the line movement, it was a no-brainer. Just an example.
Cody wants to know if there's any hockey overs. By the way, Rick Sepp says he just got back from the window. Excellent
nice.
News. I I would put it another way, Scott. Is there any game you'd play an under with tonight between
That's a better question.
Carolina, Boston, Toronto, Tampa Bay, and Minnesota, St. Louis? Do any of those games go under?
If I was going to play an under, it would be the Tampa game. But I do like the over. The Blues game's tricky too, because that was my play today. I took St. Louis, and there has been a recent goalie announcement regarding Minnesota. It does appear that Marc-Andre Fleury has been benched, and they are going to be using Cam Talbot. Now, I'm okay with that decision for Minnesota because Fleury has given up 4 goals in each of the last 2 games. Is Talbot a really good goalie? No, but he does have playoff experience. He's not awful, but I'm also not sure how good or how well he's going to play because since Fleury has been starting all of these playoff games, it means Cam Talbot might be a little bit cold because he has not played since April 28th. Do you think the long layoff hurts? Because I get that you want to make a move, and I understand it, but I'm not penciling Talbot to look sharp after about 2 weeks off.
No, the only thing I will say is the fact that Minnesota was 32-16 in Talbot's games and 30-31 in Fleury. Now I know that that was that's of course against the spread. So straight up 30-31, 32-16 is the same. So I thought that might.
I can't believe Fleury played this many games.
Well,
but
my guess would be he played mop-up duty for some of Talbot, right? Because you've got too many games there. You've got 61 for Fleury. You got 48 for Talbot. That's 100.
No, it's because he got traded midseason.
Well, he's still got 109 games. Oh,
He's
so they could have been playing.
He was on Chicago.
I got you.
All
right. You're right. Sorry. Yeah, I forgot about that.
But I don't think Fleury's very good anymore. No
No.
offense. I know that he won the Vezina with Vegas, but I don't think he's the same guy. I think that's going to help Minnesota. We saw what a goalie change did for St. Louis because Binnington came in and they haven't lost since. But I cannot get over how awful the penalty kill is for Minnesota. And I mentioned it going into the series. But St. Louis has won 6 of the 8 meetings this season, and they're around minus 105 or minus 110. I took it solely for value as my play of the day. But St. Louis at home has been really good. They've been really good against Minnesota. And Talbot might help. He might not. But when you don't play for 2 weeks, I'm assuming you're going to struggle.
Well, here's what I wondered about because I talked with, Chris had this game. He's got Minnesota. He's on the Binnington train with me. And
wait, so he's got St. Louis then?
I mean, he's got St. Louis rather,
Okay.
and then he also had the over. I'm like, how do you justify those two things with Binnington playing well, hasn't given up more than 2 goals in either one of his
St.
starts,
Louis is just walking into 5 goals a game.
or and he talked about empty netters at the end. So, yeah, I mean Talbot, by all accounts, has been better this season than Fleury.
Yeah, it's really not close, which is why I understand Minnesota wanting the experienced goalie for the playoffs.
Yep.
But you got to trust your guys. I would have trusted Talbot, and now I'm afraid they might have gone to him too late. I don't think it's going to be easy. I know every game in the series has been easy, kind of like the Carolina series.
Yep.
This game will be close with Talbot in, but I do think the Blues do enough either on the power play or just O'Reilly and Tarasenko and everyone. I just think they're a little bit too good overall compared to Minnesota. Minnesota's had Kaprizov do basically everything for this team, and not many people have stepped up since Game 3. I think the Blues finish it off tonight.
Okay. All right, very good. I have more confidence in the Blues than I do the over.
I felt a lot better about it when Fleury was in net as opposed to Talbot.
Yep.
But the long layoff suggests that Talbot might play decently well. I highly doubt he'll go for a 32-save, 1-goal performance. I think St. Louis should get at least 3 across.
Yep, very good. Thought the Houston versus Twins start was in 20 minutes.
They are continuing the game from yesterday.
Yep, exactly.
By the way, so totals in that still got voided, right?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
Yep.
Okay.
Anything that didn't go 8.5.
But I'm saying technically it went 8.5 because they continued, but it's a day after.
That goes book by book. A lot of books it has to be completed within 24 hours of the start time.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think most void.
If you complete it the next day, you're probably still good.
Okay.
Rick's got the under in the Blues game at 6.5.
I think if you want to take unders for the sake of the playoffs, you should probably stay with the first period, just because these goalie pulls at the end are really going to kill you at the end. I wouldn't mind maybe expecting a lower scoring start, And then take the under. You can go a ninja's move. You wait a couple minutes, maybe even a period. You can maybe get a middle, get 5.5 and 6.5, and suddenly with 6, you double your winnings.
Right.
So that's also an option.
Okay. All right, solid. Moving on to the hardwood. Scott, a couple of basketball games tonight. Nobody's ended it yet, so we still get 2 per night.
By the way, so for hockey, I like 1 Game 7.
Okay. What do you like?
No, I like the Lightning going to Game 7.
Okay. All right.
You have Boston winning, or you have?
No. I think.
I just think Carolina's better.
It's hard to get in front of that home and home thing, but I think Carolina's a better player, a better team. I like this Carolina team, but
they are good.
I can't get over the fact how poorly they played on the road. So I'll take a small lean with Boston.
So you have 2 Game 7s.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. Philadelphia favored at home in Miami. Is this the classic wrong team favorite, or is Philadelphia going to have a little something for them?
You mean Philly's favored in Philly?
I said against
Miami. You said in Miami.
Oh, sorry, against Miami. Yeah, Philly is at home. They're, of course, 2.5-point favorites. Otherwise, they wouldn't be. But should they be anyway?
Miami should be favored. I understand that Philly's dominated at home. I get it. And we just had this conversation with hockey. But the way that I see it with the injuries with Embiid and the fact that he's been commenting about it, did you read any of those comments that he made during the course of the week?
No.
So, of course, he had a couple of comments early on about the MVP stuff because he thinks he should have won. Jokic clearly should have won, and Jokic won the award, so good for him. But he made some comments after the blowout loss in Game 5 where he said it's a lose-lose situation. Either I don't play because of the injuries and I get called soft, or I play, and if I play badly, then I suck. And he's not wrong. Don't get me wrong.
No.
Like he's 100% right, and the media is very, very, I'd say, harsh for players unjustly. You can't say that right before your team's facing elimination, can you? As the leader of the team? That's something you say during the offseason.
I don't know what the upside is there. A lot of time
that sounds like an excuse that he's building in.
Yeah, it does. It sounds like somebody who's probably not physically ready to play.
And, of course, Embiid is not physically ready to play. Most players, if it was a regular season, he'd be out for a month and a half getting surgery on his ligament, not to mention the actual face damage. But I think it's a very bad look when your best player, the face of your team and the leader of your team, is talking about why it's not fair to criticize him for playing poorly through injury right before his team is going through an elimination game. It seems like it's a really poorly timed quote. And Miami, of course, is missing Lowry, which I think is actually a boost. I think they're better without Lowry. It's not even thinking. It's just a fact. They are better without Lowry right now because Lowry was playing at 40%. He couldn't shoot. He couldn't defend. He couldn't move. And Miami's undefeated without him in the playoffs. I believe they're 3-0 now without Lowry, 2-0 against Atlanta and 1-0 against Philly.
Yeah.
So I think you'd agree with me. Miami's probably better off without a damaged Kyle Lowry playing 30 minutes a game.
Certainly what the numbers say.
So I'm going with Miami. And I think that even though there's a chance Embiid can go for a big game, Harden historically in elimination games has been awful. We'll see what Harden we get. Maxi's been a bit of a non-factor recently. But I still cannot get the image out of my head of Philly choking, or not even choking, but just not even showing up for some of these must-win games, whether it involves Game 5 against Toronto, where they no-showed for no reason. They won Game 6, so props to them, but they still no-showed on their home floor. You had last year against Atlanta, where they no-showed Game 7. It was close, but they really just fell short. I don't trust this team effort-wise, and I know whether they win, whether they lose, whether they're up 20 or down 20, Miami's going to make it a pain in the ass to play against them for 48 minutes, and I think that Philly's going to fold. So would it shock me if Miami not only wins, but wins by double digits tonight? It would not surprise me, because if Philly goes down 10 early, they will probably roll over.
Okay.
What do you think?
Well,
I'm probably harsher on Philly than you are, but I've seen it. This team is not afraid of rolling over when things get difficult.
I get that. However, even though I still think Miami, I thought at the beginning of the playoffs, I still think it now. I think Miami's the best team in the East. I like them tonight. However, I'm not gonna pass up taking 2.5 points with what I think is the best team in the conference. However, Philadelphia has played very well at home, and just about the time you write them off, where you're like, well, this team is done. Maxey gets hot, Embiid does Embiid things, and they end up with a 10-point win. I'm not predicting it tonight, but it would not shock me if this Philly team showed up and somebody picked up the slack. I'm with you. I don't think it's going to be Harden. I think it's probably going to be Maxey if somebody's going to put up 30. But
Tobias maybe with 22.
Possibly.
Like
Yep. And you may have to have both of those things if Embiid's going to be around 20, unless he goes.
I think Embiid's going for like 24 and 14.
That's a guess. Yeah, and that might even be high on the rebounds. But I don't think if you're seeing his, I know his number the other night was 25.5. I didn't like that. If it's still around there, I'm pounding the under with Embiid.
Yeah, the way that I see it, once again, I'm being harsh on Philly, but I do personally think that Miami is just the much better team. And the bench disparity is so huge between these teams. Miami's bench, especially with Oladipo, who's actually given them some really good minutes in this series. Philly's best bench player is arguably Gordon Zhang, and he's probably been the worst player on the floor for both teams for the entire series.
All right.
Yang's been awful.
So that one doesn't go to 7.
I don't think it's going to. I think Miami wins.
Does the other one?
I have a much harder time predicting the Suns-Mavericks game than I do with the Heat game, because I think the Heat are just going to win. Like, good for Philly for winning too, but it's such a red flag, the quotes from Embiid and the fact that they punted away, in my opinion, a must-win Game 5 on the road.
Right.
You can't voluntarily set yourself up for a best-case scenario Game 7 in Miami. That's really, really concerning for Philly, in my opinion. If you lose Game 5, it's fine. But you can't no-show the game and lose by 35. That's a serious red flag. As for the Phoenix-Dallas game, the home team once again has dominated every game in the series. Now, Phoenix had some unfortunate referee situations the last time they were in Dallas, mostly Chris Paul fouling out with about 9 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, which was just crazy. But props to Dallas. They've played well. It's been a series of adjustments. Oh, boy. A part of me really wants to take Phoenix just because I think the blueprint, which I expected Phoenix to actually deploy, they used last game. Limit the number of assists for Doncic. Let him go for 35. Guard Finney-Smith, guard Brunson, guard Dinwiddie, even Bertans, and just force Doncic to take 45 fadeaway step-back jumpers, and you'll win the game. Do I think they'll be able to deploy that? I don't know. For me, I'm leaning Phoenix, but there's no chance I'm betting it. I already have a Suns -1.5 games play that I gave out about a week and a half ago. If you want to eject, Dallas money lines +110, so you basically break even. But I'll lean Phoenix. I'm hoping Chris Paul has the ultimate revenge game against Dallas fans in the first game since the Mother's Day fiasco.
Well, and it looks like the Dallas made a conscious decision on their side to not let Chris Paul beat him, because they've shut him down. He's gone for 12, 5, and 7 the last 3 games.
And I think that's good for Phoenix because Booker's the one you got to worry about with the ball in his hands.
Well, and Ayton, they have nobody inside against Ayton. I mean, Dwight Powell's a joke. They put him in there. I said in the last show,
played 8 minutes.
They put him in there basically to jump center at the start of the game. Is the only purpose I can see that he's in the game. This is a Dallas team. Once they traded Porzingis, we talked about how they were going to be weak in the middle, and they have been. Doncic leads the team in rebounds, and it's not even particularly close. And that's just scandalous at the NBA level that you're 6'7" stretch point guard,
especially in the conference semis.
Yeah, well, that's right. He's had 10.5. He's had 10.5 in the playoffs. He had 11 during the regular season, and that was he had 11 rebounds last time. The problem with that is nobody else had more than 6.
I still want more from Ayton though. I get that Ayton's a finesse big man who takes a lot of Karl Malone mid-range jumpers, and he's a very I can't say floater, but kind of like a turning what I'm talking about, like a turning post shot.
He's not just a back to the basket kind of guy.
Yeah, I kind of wish he was. Like if Embiid was playing against Dallas, for example, he'd average 45 per game.
Right.
Like I want more from Ayton, but he's still been efficient. I just think that Dallas got really hot from 3 in the 2 home games, and maybe that happens again. But Phoenix can win in a variety of ways, and I think Dallas can only win in one way, and that's a bunch of really good 3-point shooting performances.
Yeah,
I'm going to lean Phoenix.
Yep.
I'm not happy about it. I'm not going to play it. I will play Miami. I'm not playing Phoenix.
I think Phoenix has made the adjustments. That's the best team in the league, and I think they show it here. I've got Phoenix.
I don't know if they're the best team in the league, but they're the best team in the West.
Oh, they were They had the team with the best record in the league, and I've not seen once they got healthy, once they got Booker back, I've seen nothing in the playoffs to dissuade me of that notion. Even though they've lost a couple against Dallas.
In my bracket, I have Phoenix beating Milwaukee in the NBA Finals. If they would end up meeting up, which I think is a fair possibility,
sure.
I think that Milwaukee would win the series.
Okay. Well, we'll see.
But I still think Phoenix is the best team in the West, and I don't think it's very close.
Yep, agreed. All right. It's about time to do it, buddy. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Well, we talked about it yesterday. It was not ideal as Tyler McGill came out and absolutely shit the bed, gave up 8 runs in the first 2 innings.
Look, man, if we're going to give you a -1.5 and they're up 3-0 in the first 10 minutes of the game,
yep,
we're not really going to apologize for it when the guy who was undefeated against Aaron Sanchez decides to give up 5 runs in the first. That's just unfortunate.
Yep, it is. Shit happens, and that is exactly what happened yesterday. So we're getting ready to start a streak here. We were really hot about a month ago, and now we've kind of been choppy since then. Time to get warm again, Scott. I am absolutely ready, and let's do it. It is time once again. Put on your overalls, climb aboard your John Deere, get your keychain out, put them in the ignition, and fire that bad boy up. Because, kids, you know it, you love it. It is time once again to bet the farm. All right, there they are. There they are. I love the hat on top of the headphones. It's one of my favorite looks.
I'm doing the best I can.
I know you are, brother.
I'm just here so I don't get fined.
You're pedaling hard.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Skeeter, what do we got fired up for the farm today?
I thought it's your day.
Oh, it is my day. You're absolutely right. Well, that requires a quick adjustment. Yes. All right. We're going to play the team that I know and love the best. This is the Kansas City Royals and the Texas Rangers. We're going to take the over 8.5. That's available at -120 at Caesars.
It's 8.5. It says 8 on the sheet, but it's 8.5.
What's that?
You have 8 on the Bet the Farm banner.
Oh, you're right. I have 8.5 written down. That has been changed.
Yeah, so just take the banner down. It's 8.5.
Well,
yeah, there you go.
I can also do something else here, bud. We're not Neanderthals here.
We're not cavemen.
We're not unfrozen caveman lawyer. We can make the adjustments there, my friend. All right, so there it is. Yeah, when we wrote this up, it was 8, but it has gone to 8.5. So we always like to be current and fair. We're not trying to put up bullshit lines. So anyway, Royals Rangers over 8.5. That's the play. Each of the first 2 games of this series have had exactly 10 runs. There's a couple of future All-Stars getting the ball for these teams. I'm just kidding. They're probably not going to be. Taylor Hearn is pitching for Texas. He does have some experience. He's got some experience at being shitty. At night, especially 11 2/3 innings, a 9.26 ERA. Not good. However, he's going to be squaring off against Jonathan Heasley. Even if you're a Royals fan like I am, you kind of had to make sure that you knew exactly who Jonathan Heasley was, because never pitched in the major leagues before today. Minor league stats this season, not exactly setting the world on fire up there at Omaha, as he has pitched 26 1/3 innings with an ERA of 4.44. And the Texas over, we talked about this in our previews. If you watched any of those before the season started, we said Texas was going to be an over team, especially at home. Bad pitching, decent hitting, and a field that tends to get hot pretty early in the season where the ball will fly. And it is 4-1 in Texas's last 5 home games. We're going to see some runs. We're going to see them early, and we're going to see them often. Take the Kansas City Royals. Texas Rangers over 8.5. By the way, either one of those teams could get there by themselves.
Yeah, the way that I see it is it's one thing if you want to call somebody up who's been lighting it up in AAA. You call him the guy who has a 1.5 ERA, something like he's too good for AAA, so you got to do something. It seems like they really just needed any arm of any kind, and they found the guy with the 4.44 ERA in AAA who just so happened to be on his 5th day of rest and said, hey, how about you throw about a couple innings? But if you've been struggling in Omaha and now you're facing off against the Rangers offense in Texas, I'm assuming he'll get shelled.
This is the he's not Boobage guy.
Yeah.
They called up to Omaha and they said, I need a pitcher. We said, well, we got this kid. He's not that good. And they go, is he Boobage? Well, no, he's not. Okay, let's have him. This
is clearly a spot where Kansas City just did not want to burn the entire bullpen.
Yes.
So they called up a spot starter to give them 5 innings. And whether he's good or not, his sole purpose is to eat up innings.
Yeah, it's just to burn this spot because they don't have an off day on Thursday. Exactly correct. If this was an off day, if the Thursday was a regular off day like they normally have on Thursdays,
he'd still be in Omaha.
Still be in Omaha. Exactly correct.
Yeah.
So, bet the farm, Royals, Rangers, over 8.5. Know it, live it, love it, learn it, and cash that ticket. And that is going to do it for the farm. That's going to do it for the show, everybody. We do thank you for stopping by. Check out all the great offerings at Max Wagers Network, of course, and with a special emphasis on Chris and I at 2 p.m. Eastern. And then Scott and I do it every day, 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central, doing our very best to help you guys in that journey to head back to the window. You guys have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow, and we'll be doing our NASCAR show tomorrow as well with Rye Cape. Great NASCAR guy, a lot of fun. We're going to have a blast, so make sure you tune in for that. All right, you guys take care. We'll see you next time. Wherever you choose to join us, we'll be here looking for you. You guys have a great day. We'll see you then.